And some words of Torah for Parshat Vayera. Amidst the past election cycle in the US, much is being discussed about the spread of misinformation, fake news, and information warfare over the web. For example, one accusation was that President elect Trump lost the 2020 campaign because the media was asked by certain anti Trump government agencies to suppress damning information about Joe Biden and members of his family. This is one of the reasons why Elon Musk purchased Twitter and converted it into X as a means of balancing the playing field so that social media platforms are not dominated exclusively by liberal voices. X, in turn, has been accused of spreading fake news for the conservative cause. Ultimately, our knowledge of the world is dependent upon what we read, see, and hear. The raging debate of our time is how to regulate and block as much misinformation as possible without depriving individuals of their right to free speech. Today, it seems impossible to acquire information without it first being spun in multiple directions. This places the onus on the individual to know how to filter information properly. Living through the times that we are certainly gives one's pause to question, what do I really know? Is my view of the world accurate, or am I simply a pawn of some external force that is manipulating the way I think in order to dominate me or cause me to blindly conform to some diabolical plot? We're seeing so many conspiracy theories being promulgated on the internet. It is because this abundance of manipulated information leads people to mistrust what they are perceiving and to fear the worst. There's a lot of emphasis on knowledge in our parsha. Specifically, we find the verb yada, yud dalid ayin, to know, appearing 10 times. Sometimes the verb is used to describe God's knowledge, which is particularly of interest since we're used to thinking that God never attains new knowledge of anything. Hashem states in our parsha that he knows Avraham, ki yadativ, and that he is a man who will create a legacy for his children. Hashem also says that he will descend to examine the people of Sodom, hakitza'akata haba'a elai asu kala. Is the cry emerging from Sodom, make them worthy of destruction? V'im lo eda, if not, I will know. At the end of the parsha, Avraham demonstrates his willingness to sacrifice Yitzchak on the Akedah, and God says to him, Ata yadati, now I know that you are a God-fearing person. What does the Torah mean when it says about God now knows something, or that he needs to examine the situation in order to know what's going on? When the Torah uses the verb for knowledge in relation to God, it cannot mean the same thing as when humans become aware of something. The Rambam states that when Hashem suddenly knows something, it means that he makes that thing known to others. That is, something which was previously known only to God is now available for others to discover and know as well. This is how the Rambam, in his Guide for the Perplexed, understands Hashem's statement at the end of the Akedah. Now I know that you are God-fearing. Atayadati. It means, up until now, only I was able to see how far reverence and obedience to Hashem can go. But through your actions, Avraham, at the Akedah, all mankind will know what the limits of fearing God are. How does this working definition of God knowing apply to the other places in our parsha? When Hashem says, Ki yadativ, I know this man Avraham. Why is that justification for Hashem informing Avraham of his plans to destroy Sodom? The Rambam states that when you truly know something, you feel love and closeness to the object of that knowledge. In fact, one of the ways the Torah uses the verb yada, yud dalet ayin, is in the context of carnal knowledge, the intimacy between a man and a woman. The Rambam's definition of knowledge is taking something external to yourself and embedding it into your mind. Accordingly, there is no greater intimacy with an object than knowing it. The reason why Hashem felt that he needed to inform Avraham of his plans was because he had invested so much attention and love into Avraham as the progenitor of an entire nation of righteous people. In order for Avraham's descendants to properly understand God's ways, they would need to understand that even in times of retribution against an entire population, God is benevolent and caring. Because I have taken care to bring Avraham close to me, ki yadativ, I must now educate him so that the proper message is being passed along to future Jews. With these two definitions of divine knowledge, that God makes something known to others and that he has an affinity to the object of his knowledge, we can now understand what he meant when saying, Hakitza'akata haba'a elai asu kala. If Sodom is not worthy of destruction, ve'eda, I will know. Hashem wished to scrutinize the malevolence of the people of Sodom. Are they cruel to others because they are weak and have insatiable cravings and lusts? Are they exploiting others simply to gratify their needs? Or are they truly evil in that they simply wish to dominate and harm innocent people? Hashem reasoned, if the Sodomites are ideologically cruel, seeking to stamp out kindness whenever they can, then they are antithetical to my divine project and must be destroyed, kala. But if they are just weak people giving into their lusts, I can work with them. I can have someone like Avraham try to influence them and show them kindness. They in turn will be able to learn how to curb their appetites and become more like the human being that Avraham is. That is why Hashem said, V'imlo eda'a. If they're not truly evil, then I will create a bond of closeness, da'at, and make this connection known to the world. Sadly, in the case of Sodom, it was the former, which was demonstrated by the angry mob that gathered outside of Lot's house, once again to be read in this week's Parsha. God displayed the same knowledge when witnessing the suffering of the Jewish people at the hand of Egypt. As the Torah says at the beginning of Exodus, Vayera Elokim et bnei Yisrael, Elokim saw the Jewish people, Vayeda Elokim, and God knew. Again, it cannot mean that Hashem discovered something that he hadn't known before. It rather means that God decided to manifest his bond and love for Bnei Yisrael to the entire world. This is how the Torah introduces Hashem's decision to bring about the Exodus miracles. The Talmud teaches that the mitzvah of the ahavta, to love God, is to ensure that others love Hashem because of the things you do. That is, set an example of what it is to be close to God. When people see a devout Jew being honest in business and speaking kindly with others, they will come to admire and appreciate the beauty of the Torah that God gave to the Jews. The Rambam understands love of Hashem to be synonymous with knowing Hashem, both meaning to become closer with God. Israel today is filled with such righteous heroes. One is Rachel Goldberg, the widow of Rabbi Avi Goldberg and the mother of their 8 children. She reflected in her conversation with the other Rachel Goldberg Poland, whose son Hirsch was murdered by Hamas. Rachel said that her late husband didn't have to do reserve duty because of his age and because he had 8 children. But this was an active choice for him, as she said. It wasn't a question he had in his mind or in my mind. When the people of Israel are in danger, there is no doubt you are there to defend. These and other stories of heroism bring great prestige to Hashem and his Torah, especially now at a time when society has shunned religion and when religion is being used by violent protesters to distort the true image of God and what he wishes to project about himself. It remains the role of the Jew to make Hashem known and loved in the world. Instead of retreating into ourselves, we should resume the mantle of making God beloved and known in the world, just like Avraham did. And so, dear friends, may these efforts bring redemption to a very fractured world. May we see that. B'mheira b'yameinu, amen. Here's wishing you a beautiful Shabbos. Shabbat Shalom.